Hey, welcome back to the next episode of the AI Ascent podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking with Rafsan, who is one of the authors of a research paper titled Beyond Labels, Aligning Large Language Models with Human-like Reasoning. Welcome to the podcast, Rafsan.
Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. I would like to share insights about the research paper.
Awesome. All right, so we can start out with some background questions. What university degree are you pursuing, and was this paper related to your university studies?
So recently, I have graduated with a bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering from North South University, which is located in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh. And as for my AI alignment paper, it's closely tied to my university journey. It was actually my final year project. You can call it my undergraduate thesis as well. I worked on it for around 10 to 11 months, diving deep into the alignment topic and collaborating with my teammates and other supervisors to achieve something impressive. Finally, we achieved some promising results, which eventually led to this paper, Beyond Labels Aligning Large Language Models with Human-like Reasoning. And fortunately, this paper was accepted at the International Conference on Pattern Recognition, ICPR, this year. Uh, so it's an incredible feeling to have our work recognized at such a prestigious conference in the field of pattern recognition.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very exciting. So why did you decide to study AI?
That's an interesting question. So it all started during my third year at North South University. I always kept hearing terms like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. It was everywhere. So naturally, I got curious. I reached to one of my professors who specialized in natural language processing and computer vision. He is pretty much active in those research areas. So I told him that I wanted to work on machine learning and deep learning under his guidance. And he was pretty supportive. He shared some great resources with me so that I can get started. As I got deeper into the subject, that is machine learning or deep learning, I realized that the subject is really fascinating. So the more I learned, the more I wanted to know. So that's when I decided to focus my efforts on AI research. And now looking back, I think it was one of the best decisions I have ever made. I know the journey was a challenging one, but a rewarding one as well.
Great. Yep, that makes sense. All right, so let's jump into some questions about the paper. How did you
Sure.
come up with this idea for a novel fine-tuning strategy for AI alignment?
Okay. To be honest, the credit for the initial fine tuning idea goes to my thesis supervisor, who I mentioned earlier. He introduced us to this novel fine tuning strategy and encouraged us to dive deeper into it. Once we had this fine tuning idea, we got to work conducting rigorous experiments to test the potential of this fine tuning approach. To make the results meaningful, we also implemented and evaluated the existing fine tuning approaches, that is, the fine tuning with labels approach, as a baseline for comparison. We also compared our approach, our novel fine tuning approach, that is fine tuning large language models with both labels and reasons, with the base pre trained version of LLMs. After completing the fine tuning stage, we carefully evaluated the performance of all these versions. And to our excitement, our proposed fine tuning approach not only performed better, but it demonstrated a significant improvement over traditional fine tuning strategies used for alignment. It was incredibly a rewarding journey, and it was also rewarding to see that the idea translates into tangible results, uh, and it validates months of efforts.
Yep, I see. So at a high level, what exactly was the main contribution of this paper?
Okay, so to talk about the main contribution of this paper from a high level point of view, I would like to say that we introduced a novel fine tuning strategy that incorporates ethical labels as well as their background reasons to fine tune large language models so that they get ethically aligned with human morality and ethics. So this was our proposal. And on the other hand, there were some existing fine tuning strategies that involves only ethical labels to fine tune large language models. And we have clearly shown that incorporating the reasons have some significant improvement on the alignment of large language models.
Yep. So the main idea here is that you were initially doing some alignment where you just gave it the labels, and then you compared that with this new approach where you gave it a label, but you also had a human reason for the alignment. And so you tried fine tuning the model with the labels, and then you tried fine tuning the model with the label and the reasoning, and then you were able to find that fine tuning the model with the label and the reasoning was performing better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. And what exactly is the data set for aligning reasons, which was introduced in the paper, and how was that data set created?
Uh, so the data set for aligning reasons or DFER is a diverse ethics data set that we developed specifically for this project. And the data set focuses on two key ethical domains, common sense and justice. And the data set consists of three main components, I could say, like statements, ethical labels, like binary ethical labels, ethical or unethical, followed by the corresponding reasons explaining why each statement is classified as ethical or unethical. And in total, DFER contains 5,000 statements, and the statements were adopted from a publicly available dataset called Ethics, which has been published as a conference paper in ICLR. However, what makes DFER unique is that it includes reason alongside the labels, which is missing in existing ethics-related datasets. And this was mainly introduced for our research because we couldn't find any dataset that contains reasons, so we were unable to fine-tune large language models incorporating reasons. So to incorporate reasons in the fine-tuning process, we created this dataset.
I see. Perfect. And so I know we touched on this a little bit, but how did the alignment compare between fine tuning with just the labels compared with fine tuning with the labels and the reasons?
Okay, so the difference in the alignment performance was quite clear. For both the models we worked with, specifically Llama 2 7 billion version and Mistral version 0.1, the fine-tuning approach that used both labels and reasons consistently outperformed the version that was fine-tuned using labels only. We evaluated the models on two different downstream tasks. They are the ethics classification task and reason generation task. These evaluations were conducted on two different datasets. One is our own DFER dataset for aligning reasons, and another cross dataset called ethos. Across both the tasks and datasets, our novel proposed fine-tuning approach showed significant improvement over existing fine-tuning approaches and the base pre-trained version of LLMs. On the classification task, the models fine-tuned using labels and reasons achieved higher accuracy scores, demonstrating their ability to make more reliable ethical decisions. On the reason generation task, our approach resulted in a much lower misalignment rate. And misalignment rate is one of our introduced evaluation metrics that computes the percentage of bad responses. So lower misalignment rate means the model is performing better. So since our model resulted in lower misalignment rate compared to the other versions, it indicates that our models are more aligned with human ethical reason. So these evaluation results clearly highlight the value of incorporating ethical reasons during fine-tuning. It doesn't make the models better at classification only, it also equips them with the ability to explain why a decision is ethical or unethical. So this reasoning capability is what makes large language models more aligned with human values and ethics.
Perfect. So what LLMs specifically did you use in your experiments?
So for our experiment, we use two widely recognized large language models. Uh, Both of them are commonly used by researchers and uh, industries. So they are Llama 2 7 billion version and Mistral Phi 0.1. Both the models we used consist of 7 billion trainable parameters, which make them ideal for our experiments as they maintain a good balance between computational feasibility and capability. At the time of our research, newer versions of Llama or Mistral has not been introduced yet. So these were the latest and most advanced options that were available to us. So we have used these two models. Though Llama 2 has a larger version containing 13 billion and 70 billion parameters, but those were not used in our research work since they were computationally very expensive.
Yep. And what evaluation strategies did you use to assess the performance of the fine-tuning?
So we evaluated the model performance across two different tasks. And so the first task was the ethics classification task, which involves classifying a statement as ethical or unethical, simply a binary classification problem. We used accuracy as the evaluation metric, which is one of the most widely used metric for classification tasks, and it provides a clear measure of the model's performance in the classification area. For the reason generation task, we used a human evaluation approach. We involved 5 different human evaluators from diverse background who assessed each generated responses independently. Each LLM generated response was rated as either good or bad. Once all evaluations were completed by 5 different evaluators, we applied hard majority voting technique to determine the final judgment for each response. To quantify the performance, we introduced a metric called the misalignment rate, which I mentioned earlier, which represents the percentage of responses rated as bad. So a lower misalignment rate indicates better alignment with human ethical reasoning and high quality output responses. Overall, the combination of accuracy and misalignment rate gave us an understanding of the model's performance across both tasks, the reason generation task and the ethics classification task.
So my next question is, what did you learn about the impact of sampling temperature on the performance of the models for the alignment classification task?
So in our alignment paper, we explored the relationship between classification accuracy and the sampling temperature of large language models, specifically focusing on Llama 2 7 billion version. We experimented with 5 different sampling temperature values to analyze the impact of sampling temperature on the classification performance. What we observed from this ablation study was quite clear. The lower sampling temperature that we used, probably zero point 0.1, consistently achieve better performance compared to other sampling temperatures which are higher than zero point 0.1. This suggests that lower temperatures are better suited for classification tasks, specifically ethics classification tasks, where precision and correctness are important. Hence, we have drawn a conclusion in our paper that keeping the sampling temperature low is a more effective strategy when fine-tuning large language models for tasks like ethics classification, where identifying each correct case is essential and important.
Perfect. And where could future work possibly build upon the work that you did in this paper?
So there are several exciting directions for future work building on this paper. One key area can be the expand of scope of the deferred dataset. Currently, our introduced deferred dataset focus on common sense and justice related ethics only. In the future, additional domains such as virtue ethics, medical ethics, environmental ethics, also deontology, utilitarianism, these could be incorporated in the deferred dataset to make it even diverse and more comprehensive. Another promising future direction could be we could apply this novel fine-tuning approach to multimodal large language models by incorporating reasoning and ethical alignment across both textual and visual inputs. We could explore how models interpret ethics in multimodal contexts. Furthermore, scaling this fine-tuning strategy to newer and more advanced language models or incorporating some advanced prompting techniques such as chain of thought, tree of thought, and there are some state-of-the-art prompting techniques as well. So if we incorporate these advanced prompting techniques during the reason generation process, I think it has a greater possibility to improve the alignment even more. So I think these are the possible future works that could be built upon this alignment paper.
Do you foresee any risks in training AI to mimic human-like ethical reasoning, especially given that humans themselves often have conflicting ethical standards?
Yes, absolutely. There are some potential risks in training AI models to mimic human-like ethical reasoning. Primarily because human ethics are often subjective and it varies from culture to culture. It is culturally dependent. For instance, an action which is considered to be ethical in the United States might not be viewed as ethical in Bangladesh. So ethics varies from place to place, culture to culture. This variability property in ethics can make it challenging to define a universal standard ethics for AI models to follow. However, despite these challenges, AI alignment is also crucial to ensure that AI systems and models operate within ethical boundaries and don't contradict human values. So, in the initial stage of AI alignment, I think researchers could begin by aligning AI systems with universal principles or generic ethics that are widely accepted across cultures and countries. For example, killing a person without a valid reason is considered unethical. Doesn't matter where the place is or what the culture is, it is always considered to be unethical. So I think in the initial stage, researchers could begin by aligning large language models with this kind of generic and universally accepted ethics. But As the field matures and grows, future researchers can focus on more dynamic alignment techniques that could accommodate cultural and contextual differences while maintaining ethical fairness.
Perfect. Could this approach be combined with reinforcement learning from human feedback for even better alignment?
That's a great question. So I think absolutely. Combining our proposed fine-tuning approach with reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, could be a promising direction for future research. Uh, I think combining these two approaches could help us achieve even better alignment with human ethics. While our current fine-tuning method teaches large language model ethical reasoning through some developed static datasets such as DIFR, I think if we introduce reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, it will allow a dynamic learning approach where the model can continuously learn and improve based on iterative feedbacks from human evaluators. For instance, after fine-tuning the large language models with ethical labels and reasons, which we proposed in our manuscript, the RLHF approach could then be integrated to refine the model's response even more by rewarding responses that align closely with human values. And I think this would enable the model to better handle uh, ambiguous ethical dilemmas that may not be well represented in the static dataset like the different. Not only this, I think the reinforcement learning technique from human feedback could also address the challenge of developing new ethical standards. Because we know that ethics and social norms are changing, and since they are changing and since there is a variability nature, so I think iterative human feedback can guide large language models and other AI models to update its ethical knowledge to stay relevant and aligned with current human values. So I think overall, combining our proposed fine-tuning approach along with reinforcement learning from human feedback can be a promising area to align AI models even more with human ethics.
All right, and my final question is, what advice do you have to other people who are getting into the field of AI alignment?
So, first of all, I would like to welcome new individuals stepping in the field of AI alignment, which is a critical area for shaping the future of artificial intelligence, as we all know. Firstly, I would like to request them to understand the multidisciplinary nature of AI alignment. AI alignment is not solely a technical discipline. Rather, it's crucial to understand not only machine learning or deep learning, but it is also needed to know about ethics, logic, human behavior, and so on. So gaining knowledge in these areas is also essential to work on AI alignment. So I think multidisciplinary collaboration with experts in other domains like philosophy, sociology, and so on, psychology, can provide valuable insights for aligning AI systems with human values. Secondly, I would suggest that they stay updated with this field as it is rapidly growing. And to stay updated, we can follow recent articles from top tier AI venues such as NeurIPS, ICML, ICLR, Triple AI, and so on. Because in these conferences, AI alignment and AI ethics are sometimes very hot topics. So, additionally, reading the work of some leading AI organizations such as OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Microsoft Meta, as well as some independent researchers who are working on innovative alignment techniques. So I think reading the work of these researchers would significantly benefit us and would allow us to get into the field of AI alignment. So that's all I would like to advise newcomers who are getting into the field of AI alignment and want to work on this field.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Rafsan. It was really great to hear your thoughts and to learn more about this new fine-tuning strategy from your research paper. So this was really exciting, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And it's really great to share about my research paper with you. And it was a good time. So I'm also grateful to you for inviting me here. Thank you so much.